Good evening. Welcome to the February 21st, 2019 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion moved.
Second. Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Before we get started, just a couple of things. If all of you who are here this evening could do us a favor and silence or turn off your cell phones if you have them on you, because they interfere with our recording equipment. And also just wanted to ask if any of you are inclined to speak to one another while you're in the audience, if you can do us a favor and go in the hallway to speak rather than speaking in the auditorium, because that also interferes with our recording equipment. And with that, we will get started with the agenda.
Okay, there's some changes to the agenda, folks. Item 6 is going to be re-advertised for August 15, 2019. And then items 7, 8, and 9 are going to be adjourned to our March 21st meeting.
Do we want to do one vote for all three of them?
Absolutely.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn. Aye. Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
All right, item 10 on the agenda will be adjourned to June 20th.
Second.
Mr.
Sorry.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Item 11 will be adjourned to April 4th.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
And then on the decision calendar, Randall app, we'll hold that over to our March 21st meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
And the estate of Cliff Foster, we will move that over to, have that for determination on March 7th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
And then going back to the beginning of the agenda, item 1 on the agenda is a minor variance review. It's Dennis S. Lazar and Kathy F. Lazar, 80 Surfside Drive in Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-134-5-40. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-115D3, continuance for proposed principal total side yard setback of 54.5 feet, where 60 feet is permitted, for a proposed covered porch addition to the existing dwelling, a non-conforming lot, and any other relief necessary. Since it's a minor variance review,
Wait, the board has jurisdiction?
thank you very much. And since it's a minor variance review, there is no public hearing in regards to this application. So I'm going to move that we close it for a determination later this evening.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
I recuse myself on this application.
Chair votes aye.
Give you 1 second here. All right, item 2 on the agenda is 325 Mincox LLC, 325 Mincox Road in Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-103-1-25.2. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-11, Residential Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations for an accessory side yard setback of 25 feet where 30 feet is required to legalize the location of a shed constructed without the benefit of a building permit on a non-conforming lot and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction? Mr. Brown?
Evening.
Good evening. Thank you, board members. Liz Vale, Farrell Fritz, 50 Station Road, Watermill, here on behalf of the applicant tonight.
Wait, Liz, let me ask you this question.
Sure.
You gave revised surveys. Is that
Correct.
in here as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's Exhibit A is
So these
the
can just go right in the file.
revised
Thank
survey.
you.
Yes. So these are my extra variances.
So those go to Brian? Those are both originals, just to give them that.
So I represent the applicant, 325 Mecox LLC. This is a lot that was created by a subdivision map that was filed in 1994. It's a 64,636 square foot lot. It's 1.4 acres. About 10% of the lot is located in the R15 zoning district. About 90% of the lot is located in the R80 zoning district. Our clients bought the property in 2013. And I've submitted a revised survey showing what we're seeking relief for. We're seeking a variance for the side yard setback for the proposed, it says here cabana. It's actually an existing structure. If you look at, oh, wait till you get your packets, I'm sorry. The first is Exhibit A. And so it's the cabana. It's at 25.5 feet, where 30 feet is required, so I'm seeking a variance of 4.5 feet to allow this as-built structure to remain. This actual structure has been there since the pool was constructed in about 2001, I believe. I have aerials going back to at least 2001 showing the structure in its current configuration. It was a legal structure at the time because it was only housing the pool equipment. And under 33077G, the setback requirements for pool equipment is 10 feet. So it was legal until the time that our clients actually purchased the property in 2013. They started renovating the main structure in 2014. As part of that renovation, they added a bathroom to this structure. And when they added the bathroom, it changed the use of the structure from just a pool equipment shed or structure to what could be considered a cabana, because the bathroom is only used in connection with the pool. It's an outdoor sort of structure. And it's put in, the existing structure is 219 square feet. The bathroom itself is only about 55 square feet. I think they thought that part of the original renovations to the main structure, they were getting approval for this bathroom as well, but they did not. They had all the requisite permits for the main residence and all of the additions they did to it or internal renovations. They continued to work on this property. They recently just replaced the garage in place and in kind, and when they did that work, the building department finally said, you know, you have to legalize this structure. So they sent us to ZBA, or we have to remove it, and we're seeking to legalize it as a cabana. In your packets, I've shown you Exhibit B are the aerials from GIS, which show the proposed, sorry, I keep saying proposed, it's built. It's right here on the side of the property. Yeah. It's on the side of this property. And you can see these go back from 2001. So it really has been there the entire time. 2010 is the next aerial. Then you have 2013, it's still there. 2014 is a much better picture. And you can see in 2014's picture, there's also a fence in between the neighboring property. There's dense vegetation and mature trees in between the properties. And then there's 2016, and then finally 2018. The next exhibit is Exhibit C. Those are pictometry pictures, which actually show the structure at an angle. And that front door there in the first picture shows the bathroom door that was added. It's like a glass door. And that goes back, there's several pictometry pictures in Exhibit C that show the shed structure. Do you need me to point it out to you, where it is? No, that's the garage. This is the structure right here. Right here. And the bathroom is in the first 55 square feet. The remaining is all of the pool equipment. Okay? And it's separated. Exhibit D, I have 2 letters in support from neighbors. These neighbors, I believe, are to the south of the property. There is another neighbor here today, Mrs. Schott. She spoke with me today about her concerns, and she raised concerns with respect to, I'm going to let her speak, obviously she'll speak to you for herself, but what we spoke about were concerns with regard to the noise emanating from the actual heating and air conditioning units on the side of the property there. And she would like some lattice screening and vegetation put in front of it to sort of offset that noise. And I circled back and went to the client, spoke to them, and they're more than willing to do that. So that's a positive thing. I have 2 letters in support from abutting neighbors. Exhibit E, I also got the cost estimate of how much it would cost to remove the structures.
Bargain. Right.
And then
250 square feet, $106,000.
Yeah. And then Exhibit F is our real detailed pictures of the bathroom itself. The first picture is the door to the bathroom and the shed structure. You can see it abuts concrete stairs, and it's as close as it could get to the residence because of the stair there.
Very private.
The bathroom there, and this is looking right from the pool area. Then you can see the fencing, the little pathway on the side of the structure. They keep some gardening things here. There's some pots. There are 2 little garden beds that are raised beds that they have plantings in. And then this is the side of the structure from the shop property, what it looks like. This shed structure in particular. And then this is the fence and vegetation between the 2 properties. This was taken today. It's winter. It's not as, densely vegetated as it normally would be. And here's another shot of vegetation between the 2 properties. There's a fence and there's mature trees as well, which I believe Mrs. Schott said she planted a lot of the vegetation. So we are seeking, this would be considered a minor variance, but for the as-built nature of the bathroom, we're seeking approval as a cabana. It's much less impactful than actually building another pool house structure on this property. It looks like this property is built out, but it's actually only 7% coverage because it goes by roof structures, as you know. So we do meet the 5-part test. Again, we're only seeking 4.5 feet. There's not going to be any undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood. This structure has been there since at least 2001. We used existing space in the structure. We didn't add anything to the structure. There's no add-on to this structure at all. It was just using the space within it. It still encompasses only the bathroom, which is not heated or anything, and then the remaining part of the structure, and the majority part of the structure is the pool equipment, which is housed inside of it. What else can I tell you? Do you have any questions for me?
Well, I just want to mention, the only reason that we have a public hearing is because this is arguably an as-built. I mean, it
Yes.
is an as-built.
Yes.
But what it is, as you described, a structure that had been legal, that because of the bathroom being added to
Correct.
it became non-conforming. But if not for that, it would be a minor, we wouldn't be having a public hearing at all unless the board was inclined to have one. So that's the first thing, is that it's minor in nature. As to the background of how this happened, that the bathroom went in, I presume that the owner had a contractor do the work, and whoever the contractor was, I think it's something that could be a mistake that could be made. That is, I don't know that it would necessarily automatically occur to a contractor that adding a bathroom to an existing structure would make the setback change.
Right.
So I can understand that. And in normal circumstances, we want to have more information as to how this all happened. The fact that it's a minor in nature, we'll see what the neighbor has to say. But the fact that it's minor in nature is just something I want to make sure is clear at the outset. That in terms of the relief. So anyway, that was all I
suggest
wanted.
maybe we hear from the neighbor. and
Sure.
then-
Yep, absolutely.
If somebody's
Yep.
here.
Yep.
Oh, this is-
Yep,
Sure.
yep. Okay.
You can come on up and have a seat, yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
That's
Whatever you're more
fine.
comfortable with.
yep. And then I just have to swear you in, so if you can, when you get seated, you state your name and address.
I'm Paula Schott. I live at 301 Mecox Road, which is next door to this
Okay.
property.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so if you can tell
I've been
us,
living
why
in
you're
this
here.
house since 1974 and enjoying it most of the time. We had that house wasn't there originally when I moved in. Mr. Britt had the house on the other side of the property. There are a few things that I would like to say about, first of all, I haven't seen, is there a new survey that was given to the board? Or is it the same survey that I was supplied with?
It's the same survey,
But it
except.
just says cabana.
Says cabana
instead
instead of shed as the structure.
Okay,
That's the
because
change.
it didn't show also the heating and air conditioning unit.
No.
and a couple of other things that it didn't show. I mean,
Isn't it done on the, well, I guess not on that side, it's done on the other side, there's AC units.
Yeah, mine says just shed. Now,
We had them correct that note, just say cabana for the application.
okay.
'cause it's not
Now,
a
if
cabana.
I also may tell you that the shed opening was in a different place, so it didn't affect me as much as it does now. What they've done, if I might show you on the plan, well, but that's not where I'm talking about. The shed used to open from here, which is now the opening where the bathroom is.
Okay.
So what they've done is they've opened this side of the shed with all the equipment in it.
Right.
And added air conditioning and heat on the outside of that. And I get all of the noise from all of this, plus the gardeners use that shed and workmen use that shed. And at times, I had told this lovely lady next to me that at times there have been trucks that come down that path and think that's a driveway that they can use, and has been used. So that tells you about the shed.
Are the air conditioners outside new, or were they always there?
They were not always there, and yet I know that the house was air-conditioned because I had been in it many times. I believe he had it inside the shed. Now, I know you're not supposed to enclose air conditioning. However, he had it in there somehow because it was never on the outside the way it is now. What it is that's happening is the compressors, because he built on the property
These two
line,
units will screen, yeah. Right?
there are
Those
3
the-
units.
Okay.
Three.
Okay,
Three big units.
that's where they are, right there.
Because the shed opened from the other direction, I wasn't getting all of the noise and it wasn't, these pieces of equipment that are out there now are compressors, so they go on and they go off, and they go on and they go off. Because this was all built on the property line, so close to my house and pool, when I'm sitting there, or I'm even gardening on my little 1 acre, I get all this noise, and it's very upsetting to me.
And I know Ms. Vale mentioned
We
that you had a
chatted, yes.
conversation.
We
so
did, we
I'm not
chatted,
sure
had a
whether-
very
whether-
lovely conversation.
That's
Maybe they
great.
could put a-
And, I mean,
and
I don't want to
screen.
hold anything back unreasonably, but these people that are now living in this house have not been what would be considered wonderful neighbors. There's a huge tree that goes right smack, the property line goes right smack in the middle of the tree. And when something was happening to that tree, I got an estimate to take the tree down because it was going to hit my house or my property and also their property and their fence. And I asked the gentleman, and he told me, no, he didn't want to partake in this because his housekeeper told him that the tree was mine, not his, which is not true, because we've had surveys on the property, and it goes right between, the tree is here, and the property line goes right between it.
Does the tree, like, is it like right on the property line, the tree, or is it?
Yes, it's a very, very old maple tree, and
Okay.
the trunk is,
Because it gets a little confusing. When it's on a property line, it's technically both parties' tree. in a
well,
way.
it is.
Yeah.
And as far as I was concerned, it is. And Mr. Britt, the former owner, and I have never had a problem with whatever had to be done, we did, together. But this gentleman told me his housekeeper said that it was my tree, so he wasn't going to give
Well,
me
we
money.
so.
So anyway,
Wait
so
a minute.
that's one thing. There was a natural runoff between these two properties, which has been blocked up, which I have pictures of. And now you get a backup of water onto Mecox Road because the path for the runoff has been blocked.
So water is a code enforcement issue?
I believe so.
No, I'm saying it is, it's not something that we can address.
Oh, I see.
So,
Okay,
but-
so
but-
I'm just
but-
mentioning
no, no, but
everything.
the other things are, so
Okay.
we're happy to hear from you, but.
Okay,
the
and
water,
then
we
you
can't-
corrected the next thing I was going to say, is that it's not a cabana, it was a full bathroom.
Correct.
Yeah.
I told you about the shed opening toward my property now, and the additional other properties, and that the survey didn't show everything that was on, but you've corrected that, the shed, the air conditioning and heat, and the bathroom. Then I wrote a note for myself, number 14. But I think that's corrected also because it's,
Oh, yeah,
The-
the structure was there, but not the
The
bathroom.
shed was there,
Right,
but the bathroom
right.
was not there.
I made
So
that
that's
clear.
corrected
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I would like, I don't want to be unreasonable. I always
It's a good
try to be a good neighbor. And I don't mind that this is there, and I understand that it would be very costly to take it down now. But I would like these other people to do some things to correct what I feel has been done wrongly to me. The other thing is that I can show you,
I don't know what that means.
well,
Okay. Yep. I'm just trying to get specific as to what you're
well, the noise from the units.
Oh, maybe
And-
fencing and screening.
Yes, and if the
And-
lattice work is put in, perhaps they can put some soundproofing in. I don't know that they can enclose it on the top and leave it open just from the back. My house is not air-conditioned. I have a very old house, and I just have units. I don't have central air. So I'm not familiar with it. I don't know that air conditioning units can be completely enclosed, or whether it has to be out.
They can have a fence around the outside of it. They can't cover the top.
They can't cover the top.
So they
Okay.
could put, a fence in front of it.
If they can put it so it's tall enough so that it just blocks or buffers some of the noise and soundproof it, possibly.
And they're willing to do that.
Yes, which is great. And then I turned my phone off because you asked us to, but I wanted to show you this tree, if perhaps they can do something about, it's unsightly.
So the tree is a
So why
little
don't we
bit
just have the
outside of our
Of your
jurisdiction.
It's definitely
jurisdiction.
outside of our
I
jurisdiction.
mean,
Yep.
you can ask, but in terms of sound and screening, we can take care of, we can assist you in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the
And they're willing to
fact,
do that.
the
Yes.
fact that they use this side of their property as a work area and a dumping ground doesn't matter to you guys?
Well, it's,
It matters, but it's not within our purview.
So who do I have to, well,
If
I can
it's
show you.
a maintenance issue, it would be code enforcement. Because they can have a driveway or they can drive on their property, we can't limit them to that.
and they can put things on their property within reason. So,
They can dump
well,
It's
within reason.
And this is what it
So,
looked
a
like.
propane tank, an old propane.
yeah, but you can always call code enforcement if you think something's going on in the property.
Yeah,
that
setback issue or
violates code,
dumping, yeah.
in any way.
Okay, and then you, if I may correct something you had said.
Sure.
If you don't mind.
Of course.
You mentioned that there's dense
Vegetation.
vegetation on the side. Now,
Yeah.
I have done some planting.
Right. I took that today. I mean, that looks pretty dense to me.
It
That's why I
doesn't-
said that.
It doesn't show
Because it's
that
winter.
dense.
It's
Yeah,
it's
but
winter right now.
But they're willing to put up a fence and some screening.
And if they can do some more trees in there to cover some of it.
Okay,
That
so,
would-
so if those two things happened, you would feel better about the application? Would you be okay with the application?
As I said, I don't want to hold back. If they will be,
Yeah.
perhaps you can chat with them, since it's not under the jurisdiction of these people that are here, if you can chat with the neighbors about some of the other things
Of
that I
course I will.
mentioned.
Yes, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah. So if we're going to do this with screening and fencing.
And
um,
soundproofing.
Well, the soundproofing, I'm not sure how,
Not how you
whether,
soundproof.
whether that's.
You don't know that they
Yeah,
can put
something we can do.
soundproofing
No.
inside the lattice?
No, I don't know that you can do that. I can do lattice and then vegetation in front of it. That might help.
Yeah.
Hire an acoustical
But if it's-
engineer and have them come in and look at it.
Yeah.
If it's far enough away from the units,
Well, I mean, typically,
Use some stockade
we would
fence
ask for
along the
screening,
line.
and so we're going to,
No,
we're
it's
going to be,
already fencing.
Oh, there
I
is
think the
stockade.
direction this is going in is conditioning on this a decision, mind you, on what is a minor application for minor variance.
I
relief.
understand
Okay,
that.
so normally we rarely condition a minor on anything, okay? And typically, we don't even have a public hearing on a minor. But in any case, we want neighbors to get along with each other. We want things to be, to have your concerns addressed. So screening with plantings and screening with fencing, to me, is, I would hope, would be more than enough to accommodate the concerns that you're mentioning.
That's the fence that exists there.
oh, yes, that fence exists.
Yeah.
It's rather broken down in a
Yes,
lot of areas.
yes.
Yeah, so we would want to have a solid fence for,
Yes.
that would be hopefully going to reduce the sound.
Mm-hmm.
So, in any case, I guess what we would need is revised survey, or we could leave it the way it is, and we could just say where the fencing is, without revising the survey. Let's-
Yes.
Look at that.
We could do,
Okay.
we can put in the decision
Thank you.
that that there would be fencing and screening along, this is the, I believe that's the.
That's not where she's requesting it, though. She's
Okay.
actually requesting that they fence and screen the units, the air conditioning
Okay.
and heating units.
Okay.
I think
All right.
that, those are the noisiest part of it.
The,
All right.
And
They're not on the survey. yeah.
No,
You
they're
guys
not.
they
are-
don't
to do
show.
that.
No.
They don't,
What?
that's
you guys are
one
willing
thing.
to do that?
Yes,
Okay.
they're willing to do that. Yes,
Okay.
they're willing
But-
to
but
do
it-
lattice fencing, which is what she had originally talked to me about, and,
Okay.
and some vegetation in front of it.
But in order for this, I think, to be kind of work, I would think we would want to have the units shown on the survey.
Sure,
And if we're going to bother to have the units shown on the survey,
okay.
we should have the screening and the fencing shown on the survey too, as to where it's going to be located.
Now,
Okay.
what about the opening of the shed now facing me that
We
the
can,
workmen go in and out of, and very often leave those doors open so that I get the noise from there as well? Can they just be as to?
It's flush with the, the opening looks like this.
It faces
I want to show it
north.
to you. Yeah, it faces north, but it's, you see how it's hidden in there? That's it.
Yeah.
It's covered by lattice. It matches it perfectly. I would ask that that actually remain the way it is,
Yes.
for access to the pool equipment. That's what's in there.
Yeah, and you
There's a
know,
lot of pool equipment.
It was from the other direction where where the bathroom is
But
now.
it's all latticed, right? It's not
Yeah,
like solid
yes.
inside.
It's lattice.
yeah, and besides what we're going to
Yeah.
condition in the decision, there's nothing that prohibits you and Liz and the owner from having other things that are done to alleviate your concerns.
Well, that would be very nice.
Okay, but from, just speaking
your
from.
side.
We're limited
speaking for
as to how far
myself,
we can go.
how far we can go with a minor.
Yeah.
I
You know,
understand.
If this was 5 feet from the property line, that might be something entirely different, but it is, over 25 feet from the property line, and by the zoning code, it's allowed to be 30 feet. So we're talking about a difference of less than 5 feet from what zoning allows. So the screening I'm fine with, that is the fence and the plantings. But I think going beyond that is,
Well, this house
yeah,
was
yeah.
put up on the property line, which my late husband and I had come to town.
They're in the
and
first
fought.
ZBA decision.
Wow.
And we didn't win. It was built too high.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of
The
fact.
railing on the roof was granted a variance, I think, from.
Not only, yeah, the railing, and
30-something.
also Mr. Britt had put up flower pots.
Mm-hmm.
And when I called them flower pots, he corrected me and said, no, those are my finials. They're flower pots.
okay.
Because he
I'm
had
just
to
gonna see if
take,
anyone else is here, just because we gotta.
had to take
Move along a
down
little
property 4
Yeah.
feet.
Yep,
And he
okay.
put that up to make it higher.
Very good.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to be heard this evening
On the
on the
application.
application of 325 Mecox LLC?
Okay, seeing or hearing no one and having the lead, I'm gonna move we close the public hearing, leaving it open for written submissions for the revised survey.
Thank you.
What kind of timing do you think you need on the survey? I can put it over to March 7th, and if you get it to us.
That's perfect.
3/7 would be my
Thank you.
motion.
Second.
Give the revised survey as well.
Yes, I'll give you.
Okay, Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn. Aye. Mr. Tudhill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly. Chair votes aye. Thank you for being here.
Very good.
Item 3 on the agenda is Diane Anderson, 80 Cedar Avenue in North Sea. Excuse me, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-76-5-25. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-84D, pyramid height for proposed encroachment in the amount of 147 cubic feet for proposed additions to an existing dwelling on a non-conforming lot, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening. Just have to swear you in unless you're an attorney. So if you
I am
can,
not.
you're not. Okay, if you can state your name and address.
Jennifer Carrazza, 17 Island Creek Road, Southampton.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and I can swear you in as well.
Bill Chaliff, 1514 Montauk Highway is my office.
Okay? 15 Montauk Highway and
Watermill.
In Watermill.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
We could just give those to Katie, she'll stamp those. Yeah. No, that's fine, that's fine.
You're most welcome.
I think you just need to stamp one, Katie, they're all the same?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can tell us about the application.
All right, we are looking for I wish I could call it a minor variance, because it's a very small
It is
piece
very,
that just-
very small
Very
pyramid relief.
small,
Extremely
little,
small.
so that the design of the architecture, the addition will match basically what is on a very small lot, but you'll see in this diagram, I think it illustrates it extremely well. So they'd like to make this addition to the house. It's going to be their full-time residence for retirement. It's a local couple that are selling their house on the straight path. This is a family house that's been in their family for generations, and that's going to be their forever home.
Okay.
In order to do that, Mr. Chaleff here has designed this, I think, very well to the site and to the rest of the house, but of course it breaks through the pyramid. But it also does on the opposite side of the house, where you'll see in the diagram there is already a non-conforming. So it's a small, very small lot, difficult to configure.
Okay. So we got
So-
a comment from the building department, and I'm not sure whether you have seen that before?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is what we got from, this is from Dennis O'Rourke, Principal
Okay.
Building Inspector. The pyramid sketch shall be revised to confirm the amount of the pre-existing pyramid encroachment in cubic feet. The amount of 4.6 on the plans last dated 1/28/19 is in square feet. The total amount of the pyramid encroachment shall be the pre-existing cubic feet and the proposed cubic feet. So they just want basically that
I
to be.
think that we did that, and
did that?
the plans that you have in front of you now are the revised additions.
Okay.
We did that.
Okay.
I did speak to him, I got that right away, and we turned it around within 3 days.
Okay.
So,
I don't see it. I don't see it
for,
on here.
Where is that?
You have 147 cubic feet of new relief,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
doesn't have the pre-existing,
the pre-existing, let's see, this is the new, the pre-existing is the green.
right.
We know, but
And,
we're looking for
okay.
the figure on that.
Oh,
It doesn't have the existing cubic feet of the existing.
did we lose that?
Well,
Yeah, it must be very
I'll tell you, I'll tell you, it's,
Well, you're gonna need to put it down on paper. Give us
Yeah.
the pre-existing, the proposed, and the total.
Just
Yep.
in a written submission.
it's
Okay.
not gonna hold the application up further.
Have you heard from any of your neighbors?
None at all, no. I mean, they're very familiar with each other over, it's been quite a few decades.
minimal.
Minimal relief.
Yeah.
However, maybe somebody's here, we'll find out.
Right,
Is there anyone who would like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Anderson? This is for 80 Cedar Avenue in North Sea. I didn't have anything else. Jason, it's yours.
Seeing and hearing no one, I will close the. How long does the conservation board need? Do you think I can do it?
We're waiting on a referral report.
Okay,
from
the
Conservation.
conservation board,
Yeah, they meet on the 27th.
You have a
Right,
permit, but they
and
still have to.
yes, we're waiting for DEC and the conservation board. A lot will be resolved, I think, with the conservation board. Actually, it's going to be, the hearing will be waived because the applicant, and we are going to work with her for a restoration plan, revegetation plan, take up any and all concrete on the property and any low-treated wood. So there were some planters there, so that
This
will-
is just a conservation board referral report to us
referral
about
to
the
you.
application.
Okay, so that's basically what's
Try
going
for
to
March-
happen.
You can try for March 7th,
Yep.
Okay,
but I'm not sure what happens, because
All right.
they meet on the 27th, so I'm not sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will close the public hearing and for written submissions, and I will have a decision for you on March 7th.
Second.
So the only thing is if the conservation board gets delayed for whatever reason, then the decision will get delayed.
this will get delayed.
Yeah,
Okay.
and if it
All
gets
right.
delayed from the 7th, it would be instead on our second meeting in March, which is March 21st.
March
As long as, at that point, we have the Conservation Board referral report. Okay, all right.
All right.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mike, you second? That was me. Second? Or did-
No, that was,
Yes, okay. Cornelius?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly? Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Gentlemen,
you, everyone.
Jennifer, I just wanted to thank you for your very thorough, complete, and legible completion of the application.
Thank you. And you're
Easy to
welcome.
read and find out the information we need. It was done very nicely.
Let's second that
Thank
comment.
you. All right. Well, I'm very glad. That'd be helpful. All right. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you. If I might.
Item 4 on the agenda, Lori and Anthony Belmonte, 70 Wakeman Road in Hampton Bay, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-298-1-2. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-77D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in residence districts to allow for the construction of a swimming pool on a non-conforming lot, which would result in a rear yard coverage of 33.45%, where a maximum of 20% is permitted, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Evening.
Evening.
Set the swearing in. You can state your name and address.
Kevin Springer, 61 Channing Cross, Hampton Bays, New York, 11946.
And do you swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I certainly do.
Okay, so you can tell us about the application.
Yes. Obviously, there's a few things I want to point out before we get into actual changes that we have some coming here. The first part that I want to point out is that the second part of the, if you'll see to the right of the survey, we have a second-story deck that has, looks like 263 square feet leading to this issue, but the reason I can't do a whole lot with that, this house is an upside-down house, and the kitchen and all the main floor, dining and all that, is onto that walkout deck. So that was the first thing.
Wait, so what are you saying? So that, are you counting that as an alternative? What do you, I don't know.
Well, I can't do a whole lot with it. That's, you walk out to your, what's that?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I can't take that, I mean, I can if you ask me to, but it's part of the deck. It leads right off the main living space, which is the living room kitchen area. The house is upside down. All the bedrooms are on the first floor, the second floor deck.
But that's already there.
Yes, but it also leads to part of the rear lot yard coverage.
Yeah, we have structures.
But they're legal.
What's that?
They're legal.
No, they're legal, but I'm just saying, so in the grand scheme of things, some of this overage is because of this 263 square feet.
Got it.
And because of the shed and because of the garage.
Right, and the large pool.
Yes.
Very large pool.
So there's,
Just saying, so.
no, but I was answering your question. So I'm not looking to do anything with that. The first thing that I have spoken to the owners is removing the shed completely. So that would be, I think that's roughly, what is it, it says 106 square feet. We are willing to get rid of that. The spa, if the pool is approved, the spa will leave, which is another, because there's no need to have both at this point.
And that's gonna become deck, so that your net coverage doesn't
No,
change.
you're not, let me finish.
You're gonna have a hole in the deck?
No, that's on the first floor. That's a first floor deck.
But there's a deck over it.
Yes.
Either way, it's counting to the same coverage.
According to the surveyor, he counts the the lower floor deck also.
They don't, it doesn't double, though.
No, I'm not saying it doubles, but I'm going to remove the spa and the lower floor deck,
Okay.
which all add into the full
right.
number.
So
But
that's,
above where you're removing that is still deck.
Yes, not
That's still
touching
gonna
that
count.
deck. Yeah, but we're talking about two different decks. I want to remove the bottom floor deck and the spa that sits on it.
Correct. But if you're standing where that is, there's still deck above you.
Yes.
So it's still gonna count to the coverage.
But he's saying everything's counting right now.
Right, everything
It's
is
not counting
counting.
double, so the net.
No, I didn't say it counts double, but it is counting towards the total number.
But if you have two decks on top of each other, you remove the bottom deck, your coverage doesn't change.
Yes,
It doesn't change because you still have covering.
I'm telling you what the surveyor was.
Yeah, I
that's how
mean, he does have it on here twice, Brian. He has second-story deck, spa 263, also part of first-floor deck, also 263.
I know, but it's part of the same 263 that they count on the coverage. So if you remove the bottom, it's still covered.
I
according
understand
to
what
the
you're
code.
saying. I just, that does look like how
Still coverage.
it was
So is it-
calculated.
If I have a deck here,
Calculated wrong?
I don't know.
I have a deck here and a deck here, and I take this deck out, my
Right.
coverage stays the same, because I'm still covering with the second floor deck. So it doesn't help your coverage, is what I'm saying.
That's why I was led to believe that that's, because it's 2 decks, it still adds to the total coverage, is how I was explained.
I think
Well,
you
we
need to
should confirm that with the
Yeah.
building
Which is
department.
fine.
You need to clarify that.
Okay, anyway, the spa is obviously leads to that number also. So the spa would be leaving also. The stairs off the deck, no matter what I do, whether I move them around, I still need the stairs off the deck. So even if I put them in a different area, they're still going to be as part of the coverage.
Unless you move them out of the rear yard.
Well, it's kind of tricky because if you see under the second, when you look on the second-story deck to the north, and you have the 2 air compressors for the AC underneath, that's about the only place where I can't go on the side of the house because I have a lower-level entrance, so there's no place to go there. I've flipped it around a couple times, I don't really have any room to put it anywhere.
So roughly, what do you think, how is this going to change the rear yard lot coverage figure?
I'll tell you right now. Let's see. So we're proposed right now is 1651, according to this calculation, which we will double check. Minus, let's start with the shed was 106. We're down to 1545. It's tough to kind of do this spa thing the way he wrote it.
Oh, it does.
The spa's definitely coming out, so that's, what did they say that was?
49.
49. So we're down to 1496. And then we have to figure out this whole decking thing. The idea of, under that was to just make a patio there.
Right.
Get rid of the deck, get rid of the hot tub.
I just want to check that. I'm pretty sure it counts. It's not going to change because you have the upper deck, but we can check that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about doing a smaller pool?
And then, yes, we were willing to come down a little bit in the pool also. That's, the main thing of the whole gist of this is that they want, the pool is the focal point, and they don't have a ton of yard space to begin with because of the way it's laid out, and the house is actually longer than, they bought it this way. They didn't build it. If somebody built it and swapped it around north to south, obviously would have given them more options, but they did not.
Yeah, Kevin, when you added up, they only counted the
They counted
deck
once.
once.
That's what I'm saying.
They did.
It's double. That's what I looked at the survey. It doesn't. It's 1/1.
Correct.
It doesn't matter.
Yep, yeah, no, you're right.
So really, we're only removing the shed, which is.
Correct.
Yeah.
The shed and the spa.
The spa's
The
being
spa
removed,
doesn't
but
count.
the spa's not, yeah.
I just
If
added.
you look
Though
at
it does, the spa doesn't count, okay.
It's not counting.
Yeah, yeah. So we got to get this pool smaller. How much smaller are we willing to make it, Kevin? How much smaller, what is the applicant willing to do?
Well, I mean, the next size down, which is a typical pool, is a 16 by 32. And that's not a big pool to begin with.
They have a huge garage in the backyard.
Yeah, but it's been there and there's not a lot. No, I
No,
understand.
I understand. I'm just saying
Yeah, and I mean, if we could, but it's,
the garage has got to be 600-700 feet.
I don't know if it's on here. Existing garage is actually 967 square feet.
Yeah.
So, so if you, let me
Yeah,
just see.
I mean,
something.
I'd like to see the figure to get, the percentage
lot.
get down to like around 25%, but I don't know that can be done. So,
So hang on, let me just see
Yep.
something here. So if the pool currently is, with the way the proposed pool is 684, but if we do 16 by 32, that's 512, so that's another 172 square feet. Less the shed is 272 square feet, so, we're getting there.
288.
What's that?
With the shed, it's like
Shed's
a little less than
106.
300 square feet right there.
So you got 278.
Increase the pool and the,
Right, so,
take the shed.
so if you just, well, I'll do a rough number. If we're at 1651 minus 300 is 1351, and our maximum coverage at 20% is 987, so.
Have you heard from the neighbors?
The only neighbor I heard from was a Miss Norris, who is the, if you're looking at.
Who's here? Who's here?
She is here, okay.
Her hand.
Yep, she is the property next door, which technically is to the north. She's on the corner of Riverdale.
To the north.
Okay, all right.
What'd you come up with there, Kim?
Didn't finish yet, hang on a second, divide by. This rent is down here. So we have 1651 minus 300 is 1350.
This is when it would really have been good to have Herb here. He would have done the math in his head, just like that.
Yeah. What did we say, it was 980?
I mean, I think it's going to be 26, 27%.
Yeah, it's gonna be right around
Something in that range, so, okay. Well, we'll, you know,
All right,
we gotta
let's
hear.
see what the
from
neighbors got to say first.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions, members of the board?
Not yet, let's hear from the
Okay,
neighbor.
is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard in connection with the application of Belmonte?
Yes.
Is it Belmonte or Belmont?
Belmont.
Belmont, okay.
Right now? Yes.
Kevin, is there another chair by you?
I can move down one.
Okay.
It'd be very gentlemanly.
Sit up here.
Okay.
Helen.
Come on down.
I'll do some.
Sit there, Eva.
You're not here tonight.
I'm a neighbor as well.
Okay, that's fine, so I want to swear you both in, so if you can both
Great hand.
state your name.
Can't hear words you say.
Really?
I'll
Okay.
help, I'll help.
Okay.
You're gonna state your name, who you are, and where you live. Go.
Okay, so if you can state your name and your address.
I'm Eva Norris,
Yeah,
2 Riverdale Drive, Hampton Bays.
okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and ma'am?
I'm Michelle New. I'm at 4 Riverdale Drive, Hampton Bays, New York.
Okay, you swear to tell the truth, the whole
Yes.
truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, so if you can both, I
I'm
don't.
gonna start first.
Sure, but I don't know if you heard the conversation that we had.
Yes.
So we've already asked the applicant to reduce the size of the pool, to remove, and the applicant has volunteered to remove the shed and remove the spa. So.
Did you hear that?
Yeah,
The shed?
The little shed.
little shed.
The little shed.
And the spa on the first deck.
Okay.
Okay.
And
And make the pool
16 by 30.
16 by 32.
Yeah,
say that again.
16
16.
by 32 instead of 18 by 38. So he's
It's
making,
still too long.
okay.
well, this is, we want to hear from you.
This is the process.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. So we, even before we're hearing from you, we were already concerned about the size of the pool and the impact on you as a neighbor.
Did you understand that?
So this
Yes.
is not final?
No.
No.
No, we want to,
No,
hear what,
it's a journey.
we want to hear what your concerns are.
Let me go first, and then you can read yours,
Okay.
okay? I am to the back, I am lot 31, and Eva is lot 29. We have a noise problem already. As this gentleman said, it's a flip-flop house, so there are living spaces on the second floor, and they have a second-floor deck. It's their summer house, and when they entertain on the second deck, which amplifies the noise into my yard, frankly. And they're very nice people, but the last time they had company, I could tell you exactly the conversations that they had, just because the sound travels. And we all have third acres, and we all butt together. I had large bushes planted along our property line. He has a fence, a 5-foot fence, and I put some 5-foot bushes, which I hope will be 8 feet soon. But I don't know if that's going to help the noise. There is a privacy issue, their lower deck. Actually, you can see right into their house from my kitchen. So that's why I put the bushes up. And they have blinds, so they're aware that there's a privacy issue. When we looked at this pool, we said, oh my goodness, that's a big pool. So whatever's going to happen in that yard is going to be happening in my yard. It's going to be extra noise, it's going to be pool noise, it may be machinery noise, it may be more noise from deck to pool and from pool to deck.
Where's the
since
pool equipment going?
That's the living
Yeah,
space.
I don't see, I was just going to say the
It's
same
going
thing.
to be on the north side, just west of the AC units is currently the plan.
Okay, I think we want to have that on the survey.
So
We'll be revising the survey.
this is a picture from my kitchen.
And if you want that in the record,
Yes.
you can print it and submit it,
Okay,
okay?
okay.
So just, I want to make sure you know, because you show us something, we're happy to look at it, but it's not.
Yeah, well, as you can
record.
see, the top deck,
Yes.
and then this is the side, that the long side, this is Eva's side. Okay. Again, I understand it's their summer house, we all have to live together, but I'm afraid that the amount of noise that will happen, you know, they like to entertain, but the amount of noise that this huge pool, or even a smaller pool, is going to create, it's really going to deter my quiet and peace and enjoyment of my property. I work full-time, my weekends are like their weekends to enjoy my property. The other thing that I noticed in the application, they're saying that this is kind of like normal.
Excuse me.
Everybody has a pool.
Thank you.
But in Hampton Bays, this is not normal. This is unusual. Most people that have pools have the space for their size pool. So if this is approved, you're kind of like setting precedents that this can happen. And I know in Southampton, we have a lot of big houses being built on postage stamp properties with big pools and cabanas and whatnot. And I'm concerned about that as a local. I can afford to buy in Hampton Bays, but was raised in Watermill, so it is a concern. The other thing was, you know, if you do this, and again, it sounds like you're not happy with the original size, but I think it is a detriment to the neighborhood, because once again, if you allow this big structure, other people will be doing it as well based on this.
Well, another way they could have the pool, I'm not suggesting this, is to remove this big garage.
Well, that would be our, you know, there's other ways to do it. A 10 by 20 pool, move the garage, maybe put the pool on the south side. There's another pool at the property next to him on the south side, so.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing just to keep in mind is that the setbacks for the pool are going to be conforming. That is, the distance from the property line is conforming.
That's 10 feet, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's really just rear yard lot coverage, and rear yard lot coverage is something we don't, we take seriously.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, primarily rear yard lot coverage issues happen with tennis courts, not pools.
Yeah.
Mostly,
Yeah.
that's when we see them.
I don't think you'd have as much noise issue with a tennis court as you would with a pool. Pool is entertaining, you know, you
I
have
think they
children.
both can have noise. I
Yeah.
think tennis courts can be noisy too. So we,
Not as bad, though, I would say.
well, I think both can make noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my big concern is
And
the
screening.
noise. And the what?
And screening.
And screening. What about screening?
Your concern is screening.
Yes, I'm trying to get privacy as well, but the noise factor, screening is not going to.
So noise is almost an enforcement issue. We can't really consider the noise because that's not part of our test.
Right, but
But
if you
it's-
approve such a big pool on
Right.
such a small property, the noise is with that. Ava has
Which
something.
is why we often talk about screening, as we did in the last application.
Yeah, I just don't know if screening's gonna do it. You have screaming kids
So-
and top deck and yelling
So-
back and
Okay,
forth.
so would you like us just to deny the application? Is that what you'd like us to do?
No, I'm not necessarily saying that.
Okay.
And there's no way that we're gonna screen because, granted, it's a second-story deck.
You make some big trees.
Yeah,
Grow some big
yeah, but then you have to take care of them, and what if they fall down?
Who is this man next to me?
Who is this gentleman?
He's the agent for the applicant.
I'm the one that you spoke to
Are
on
you,
the
are
phone.
you, Mr.
Springer?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Mr.
I
Springer.
spoke to you on the phone.
Yes,
Yes.
you did.
Oh, okay.
How are you?
I didn't, I only saw you from the back and I didn't know who you
Yeah.
were.
Okay.
Ava,
Sometimes I look better from the back.
do you want to read this, or do you want me to?
No, you can read it. I don't know. I
Should I
don't.
read it?
I've
You can
never been in
go
a
ahead and read it.
in something like this before. I'm hard of hearing. I'm 91 years old, and she's helping me out. She's my neighbor, and we do the best we can. A pool is 10 feet of my property. 10 feet runs along my property.
Well, it's
That's
actually
not,
38.
that's not enough of it's, I have other things that I think should have been done.
Right.
But
And
nothing is final yet.
nothing's final yet. And, when we have people come in, okay, neighbors come in and they're concerned, speaking for myself, whenever possible, I want to see neighbors get along.
Yeah.
And if there are issues between neighbors, I want them to work it out, I don't
That's
want
what
them
we
here-
have.
And so I know that's why you're here, and I appreciate the
Not
fact.
everybody has, but we
Yes.
do.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's third of an acre properties. We all butt up together. There is no barrier between us. There's no woods. So our properties, some people have fences, but they're butt up together. So
Let's
it's
read
not
the
like
letter.
watermill.
Let's hear the letter.
Yes, this is from Eva. My husband Russell Norris and I bought the house adjoining the house in question, 70 Wakeman Road. It was in October 1969. My husband, now deceased, was 20-year military veteran starting in World War II. After his death and a marriage of 23 years, I became the surviving spouse of a soldier. He died in August 2000 after signing the house at 2 Riverdale Drive in Hampton Bays over to me. After his death, I moved in full-time to the house at 2 Riverdale Drive, where I plan to stay for the rest of my life as a retired single older lady. The plan by the people next door to construct a huge 18 by 38 pool running along my property only 10 feet away is nothing less than ruining my remaining years. The noise of many people so close is not only my fear, but of other houses. My suggestion, either give up the plan or move the garage to the southern property line whereby adjoining the neighbors only pool around and here, which will give them more room. Sincerely, Eva W. Norris.
This place has been a problem from day one when we bought it. He's advertised it, not this person.
Previous owner.
Previous owners. And crowds of people would show up, and none of them liked it. They said, this house is in the wrong place. It's too high. There's one-story houses all around, and this thing shuts up to, it's just out of place. There is a word they used in...
Pyramid.
Huh?
Pyramid.
Yeah, that's not the word.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
An aberration.
Aberration?
Okay.
Yeah, that's what people, the one that came to look at the house, that's what they all said. It's just not right. It shouldn't be there.
Well, we can't do anything about the house.
It's-
It's already there.
They're gonna revise the application.
Okay,
Yeah.
so but I do want to,
Is anybody else here on this application?
This is the application of Belmonte for 70 Wakeman Road in Hampton Bays.
okay, a few things. The noise I will disagree. Yes, there is a lot of noise because it's a second-story deck, but the main living space is there. The idea of having the pool is to bring some of that lower so that the voices are not traveling. Again, this is their home. There's not much you can do about it. They took the house, which again, like she said, not a lot of people were interested in, but they bought it, they fixed it up, and it is their home, and they're entitled to that. Screening-wise, I have no problem screening, never have, and if that will help, then absolutely. We've already just, have agreed to make the pool smaller. I will disagree with that, the pool's not being in character with the neighbors, because this is just a very quick overview, and I count anywhere from 6 to 8 pools, including the one right to the south of our house, which is right on the property line, which is a rather large pool also.
What I'm saying is they have the room for it. That was my point with the neighborhood and the pools that they have. They have the room for it. This particular property
Well,
doesn't
that's why we've
have
offered to
the space
reduce
for
the
it.
pool. We've offered to reduce that, but we're still entitles us to have a pool.
I'm not saying that it doesn't.
Well,
Entitled.
not entitled. My apologies for that thing. But, again, so,
That'll get you, no, quick.
but there are similar pools in their neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Of the 16 by 30.
No, they do not. Most of them don't.
This gentleman has to have a variance because he's got a pool on his side, yeah.
Do we know he has a variance?
Well, I would think he would have, it's been there for many years, I would hope he does, I can check into that.
I think.
And also with the, they brought up the 10-foot, but the 10-foot is the code.
Well, that's,
well-
we know that.
Right.
We
but
know.
She was saying it was too close.
Yes.
But also, just so you know, this pool, her house is here, and this is back here. So we've obviously adhered to the 10-foot, and it's also in the back of the property.
As
And we are-
I indicated previously,
Right, so
too,
we
it's
are,
not about
you know,
setbacks.
Right, we are restricted in some.
Right.
But my house
And the current
is
proposal.
right
for
here.
65.
So
So,
my house is right here, so this is right in my immediate backyard.
here's what we're gonna do.
Okay, yes.
Well, no, go ahead, Brian.
I've heard a lot about it. We're gonna come back. You're gonna revise the application,
Okay.
see where you can go with it, with screening. Talk to the neighbors, see if you guys can agree on something. If not, when you resubmit, when you come back to us, we'll make a decision if you guys haven't reached an agreement.
I think it's.
And in the meantime, we want there to be communication. And you also, while you're here tonight, you could absolutely have a further discussion out in the hallway, okay? I want your concerns to be addressed as fully as possible,
We appreciate that.
okay? And
Yes.
I'm hoping between Mr. Springer, who does a lot of the applications before us, and his clients, that he'll want to, and his clients will want to address your concerns.
They're very nice people, and again, it's unfortunate that the deck is up there, but our concern, again, is noise and quality of life. Okay?
So the other thing is when we're gonna come back.
Okay.
It's gonna take you, I would imagine, a little bit to make these changes, Kevin.
Yes.
Our first meeting in March, we have a little bit of room, but that's only 2 weeks from now. The second meeting in
Yeah,
March.
that's not, it's
No.
gonna take me next week just to get a whole day.
Right,
Obviously,
right.
this is their summer.
Well, what I'm thinking is, I don't know if April 4th is too far out for you, but it's either the second meeting in March where we have very little flexibility on the agenda, but we might be able to fit in this, or first meeting in April, which is April 4th. Second meeting in March is
well,
March
this-
21st.
Can we shoot for the second meeting in March, because the 4th of April, I
close.
may not be in town? And, yeah.
Okay. Can we do it for 21st? Yes. Okay. All right. So I would move that we hold the application of Belmonte open for all purposes until our March 21st meeting.
Second.
Mr. DeSessa. Aye. Mr. Hahn. Aye. Mr. Tudhill. Aye. Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Really appreciate
Thank
you all
you,
being here,
gentlemen.
especially you. My goodness.
I know your
Great.
name from somewhere. I don't
Well,
know where.
I've been around.
He's up in the post office.
I swear to God.
He's a star.
You've been very nice and very kind.
No problem.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
You too.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Yep.
Like
like your tactics there.
Item 5 on the agenda is Style Jam LLC, 220 Gaia Road in Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-49-1-9.7. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for proposed tennis court. 1, 330-11, residential districts table of dimension and regulations for an accessory distance from street setback of 56 feet where 90 feet is required, and 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts, and 330-83C yards to allow the tennis court to be located within the required front yard. 2, for a proposed sports court, basketball court, attached to the tennis court, 330-11 for an accessory distance from street setback of 35 feet where 90 feet is required, and 2, 330-76D, placement of accessory buildings, excuse me, structures and uses in all districts, and 330-83C yards to allow the sports court, basketball court to be located within the required front yard. 3, for a proposed detached garage, 330-11 for an accessory distance from street setback of 65 feet easterly property line and 40 feet southerly property line when 90 feet is required. And 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts, and 330-83C yards to allow the detached garage to be located within the required front yard, and any other relief necessary. It's all happening in the front yard, man.
That's true.
Brian says I'm recusing myself.
Okay, Bruce, just have to swear you in. You can state your name and address, please.
Bruce Anderson, Suffolk Environmental Consulting, offices of Main Street, Bridgehampton.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, so if you can tell us about the application, do you have a revised survey going around, or we have a...
No, but I do want to just clarify a few things.
Yep.
First thing I want to clarify is that the survey before you was prepared by Gorilsky Land Surveying and stated January 17th, 2019, and what I want the board to understand is what's requested here is a tennis court that measures 60 by 120 integrated into the same structure that would be the sports court, which is 25 by 50, and you'll see it's off to the side of it. And so it's all basically one structure. It would be recessed into the ground. The overall structure is 30 feet from the front lot line at its closest point, which would be the corner of the sports court. The tennis court, if you were to view that as a standalone item, would be more like 35 feet from the front lot line. The second thing is you'll see a proposed garage, which is depicted to the south of that, and the final thing is that these properties take access off of Gaia Road, which in this location physically resembles more of a driveway than it does a road. Gaia Road is as far as I know, there's some discussion as to whether it's a town or private road, but for sure the town doesn't maintain it. And in the vicinity in front of this property, Gaia Road resembles much more of a driveway, and it serves this lot and one other lot that is south of this. So you're sort of the terminus of what physically appears to be a common driveway. So I'd like the board to take note of that. The property is 2.7 acres. It is located in the CR 80 zone. And there's basically three forms of relief, the most important of which is probably 330-11, which sets forth a zoning restriction of 90 feet back from the front lot line, and that goes for all accessory structures. The remaining setback, the remaining variance provisions are found in 330-76D and 83C, which deal with structures in the required front yard. So those are, in a nutshell, what we're asking. Those are the variance triggers for this application.
Bruce, can you say what you said before again about the sports court? Did you say that's surrounding the tennis court?
No, it's the bump out. If you look at the survey, you'll see a 25 by 50 foot extension off the tennis court in the southern portion to the south of the tennis court. So it's integrated into one structure. So I think it might be easier just to consider this a tennis court, sports court,
Okay.
30 feet from the front lot line. I'm just trying to simplify this.
Okay.
Now,
All right. I wanted to ask about a measurement. One of the items listed is relief of the sports court, attached to the tennis court, accessory distance from street setback 90 feet to 35 feet.
right.
Can you tell me where that 35-foot measurement is? 'Cause
The
I-
35 feet would be, if you see the survey where the 70-foot is on the dimension off the tennis court, if you extended that to the front lot line and then drew a dimension from there, it would be 35 feet.
Okay.
I thought it was easier just to consider this one structure 30 feet, although they could be split apart and moved around, and I get all that.
As you know, any variance relief that is being requested, that is dimensional setback relief, we need to be able to have it shown on the survey. And, if you're looking for that relief. So that's the reason
I'm perfectly happy to revise the survey. That's not
Okay.
an issue for us.
Okay, that's all, 'cause I couldn't.
It has been noticed this way, so the
Yeah.
adjoining property owners are
Yeah.
aware of the
Yeah.
design and layout of these
And also, it is a little confusing that there's a proposed tennis court on the survey, but nothing is indicated as a proposed sports court. I understand you're saying that this space, that's what it's going to be used for, but if that's what you're requesting relief for, I would want that indicated on the survey.
Happy
That it
to
said
do
it's
so.
That's a proposed sports court. So otherwise, go downstairs to the building department, and they'll say, well, what is this for? They won't know.
Absolutely. I don't really put these together, the architects do.
Okay.
But, okay, so certainly we will make those corrections and clarifications for you.
Well, on this here, it's noted as a property, I guess, patio. Not even
Proposed patio, yeah.
proposed patio.
Well, that is the sports court.
Yeah, let's call it what it is.
Okay.
So
Get it on a survey and
it's not
stuff.
confusing.
I agree with you.
Well, also, the tennis court, we have an aerial that shows a tennis court.
That is correct. That tennis court is no longer there.
That's what I figured.
Structures have been removed from
Okay.
this property.
This
So
is
we're
all
redeveloping,
replacing what's.
we're redeveloping a property here.
Okay.
The first thing I want to walk you through, because this is a variance that, what's driving the variance is a design, overall design for this property. And this particular property is unique. Usually when we deal with tennis courts in the front yard, there's someone across the street, okay? And it's a problem for someone across the street. Maybe it's a well-traveled street, so it's in everyone's eye. This is very unique. It's almost at the end, except for one lot to the south of it. It's almost at the end of what is essentially would appear to anyone who went down there as a driveway. So it's unique for that reason. It contains some very interesting features, and if you look at the aerial, the first thing you'll notice is that there's a big swath of woods directly running to the east of that. And that swath of woods is a swale that runs towards the pond to the south, which is known as Short's Pond. It's quite deep, it's heavily treed, it's heavily vegetated. The distance from this property across the swale to the adjacent farm field is 200 to 300 feet, and there's no one there. So it doesn't, so what I'm trying to impress upon this board is it's a unique property in that there's not the usual problems you would encounter environmentally, quality of life, et cetera, in siting a swimming pool in the front yard. So please take notice of that.
I mean, tennis court in the front.
Tennis court, I'm sorry. The architect who's done the design layout has given you a rationale contained in here. And what he's telling us is that he's got several criteria. And the first is to preserve a natural green space, viewing quarter from north to south along the western portion of the property. Adjacent neighbors to the north and the Atlantic Golf Course benefit from this. And let me stop for a second. We have here 2 letters of support from the property owner directly to the north and the property owner to the north of them, which simply reads that we own the property at 200 Guyer Road. We're familiar with the variance request. We fully,
And is one of those neighbors the one who owns the house to the north?
that is correct. So I'm going to put those into the records. I can also tell you that the property owner reached out and spoke to the folks at Atlantic Golf Course. Specifically, the president of Atlantic Golf Course is Dennis Susskind, and Dennis Susskind indicated his support for the application. The reason why the golf course would care is because a tennis court placed on the other side of the building puts it in direct view of the golfers coming down the fairway adjacent to it. So we show you that. So the whole view, if you live in this area, and you live on any of these properties, and it doesn't matter, your view is always going to be, the preferred view is always going to be towards the southwest. And that is across to the golf course. And it shows you, like what you would see from this property in the lower things, you understand why the architect placed the structures where they placed them, even though a variance is required, okay? And that's what's driving this.
Well, and another thing about this is that this property has 2 front yards.
And it has 2 front yards. That is correct.
Right.
Now, to my knowledge, all adjacent property, or I should say, no adjacent property owner has an issue with the design and layout because they share the common view shed that they're trying to keep open and unobstructed. That's why this is unique. One of the property owners who is to the south is Jane Held, although I believe it's held under a different name, and she's here tonight with her consultant, and they're going to speak to 3 items today. There's a consultant, I'm sorry, it's Chuck Bowman, and they're going to speak to 3 items today. One, that the tennis court would be recessed, which is our, which is what we want to do. Second, that there'd be certain improvements to the road, particularly drainage-related improvements. And I'm not going to, I'll let Mr. Bowman speak for himself, but you will hear that tonight, and it's important for you to know that Ms. Held and her consultant, Mr. Bowman, and myself, and the property, we all did meet out on the site. And so we're all sort of familiar with these issues, and it's pleased to report we're in a neighborhood where people are working together to resolve them. So
The improvements to the road? Is that what you said?
yeah, because we have some serious erosion problems,
allowed? Is
which
it
we're
town
trying to work on here, and we are going to work on.
It
And
says it's a town road, though, doesn't it?
You mean by Guyer?
it's not accepted into the system per se. It doesn't meet town specs. It is not plowed by the town. It is not maintained by the town.
It's dirt.
It is a mapping convention.
But
The best way to
survey says it's a
describe
town
it.
road. I mean, you should just confirm you're allowed to put any improvements in it.
Well, the improvements are there, and they have been there for many years. What we want to do is make it better, but we have a letter which I can produce at some point. There is some disagreement among the town. I know it's the town highway superintendent's position that it's not part of the town system. So there is some, it has nothing to do with this board, but it's important to know that it is important to this property owner and Ms. Held. And what I can say is that, based on our meeting out in the field, that it's nice to see 2 property owners working together to make it suitable for everyone.
Well, the placement of more impervious material, as far as you got a basketball court or a sports court, whatever the hell you want to call it now, and a tennis court and everything else, will that exacerbate the drainage problem or whatever you got going on up there, or what?
Well, I'm not going to speak to Mr. Brennan. He mentions he's going to speak to that. It is going to be recessed, and he's going to ask for.
It's all going to be recessed?
Agree to is a grading and drainage plan. So That's going to work itself through the system, but I really don't want to
That's-
speak for
you're talking-
someone else.
Are you talking about a sunken tennis court?
Yes, we're going to sink it.
And is the sports court going to be sunken as well?
Yes,
How far?
4 feet.
Well, let's hear from Mr. Bowman. Mr. Bowman is,
I would suggest
he's
we
the
do.
professional. He's been around a long time.
Wait, I had a question though. Are there two garages and 2 driveways on this
There are.
proposed? And the building department will let you have 2 driveways?
It's been through the building department. To my knowledge, there's no zoning prohibition against that. We have done 2 driveways in the past. I mean, those are very common, 2 curb cuts, 2 driveways.
And why do we need 2 garages?
Well, to store cars is what he needs them for. I will tell you that it's not overburdening the land from a coverage standpoint. I would tell you that the garage to the south is of lesser importance than the sports court, if that matters to you. I'm not sure it matters to anyone. If it is a problem, I'm here to address any issues you may have with it. I'm not sure it rises to any particular quality of life problem for anyone, but we'll certainly address it if you have an issue with it.
Okay. No.
Is the owner of the property directly to the north the same owner as this property?
No, they're held in different, they're both LLCs. There is a common, behind the LLC, there is a owner, but they are separate as the title.
Separate type, yeah, right. Because as a, as a neighbor, that most northern property, I mean, that tennis court would concern me.
They put in a letter.
They put in a letter in support, because, again, I don't want you, this is an odd duck for me, because that's why I'm trying to impress upon you on the uniqueness of it. The goal here is to keep the land open as you look to the southwest, and that's why the tennis court's placed where it is. In other words, the fellow to the north, Lot 1, the whole orientation of that development, it's not square to the road, it turns and it faces to the southwest. So the idea is what everyone wants to do is,
Right,
they
that
want
would
to
be, that would be
preserve.
an eyesore to that first
Exactly.
house to be
They're all
looking out
looking
at
to
a tennis court.
preserve this view, because it is quite impressive if you're there. The land's very high, you look over a very deep gully, you have Atlantic Golf Course in the horizon, and then the town, and Hamlet, so forth, behind that. So that's why these properties are all being developed in that fashion. I suspect when the southerly lot is developed, it too will face southwest, but I don't want to speak for that individual, because that would make the most sense.
Okay.
Okay, let's hear from Mr. Bowman, okay, please? Please.
Maria said one.
But the fact that it's, the most impacted neighbor is in favor of putting the tennis court in this location,
That is correct.
leads me to be in favor of it as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Mr.
I'll
Bowman.
ask him.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Good evening. Just have to swear you in, if you state your name and address.
Charles Bowman, President, Land Use Ecological Services, 570 Expressway Drive South, Medford, New York.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and ma'am?
I'm Jane Held,
Okay,
32 Poxabout Pond Road, Bridgehampton, New York.
okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Just to give the board a little background on this. This subdivision, Shores Ponds Associates, was approved in 1984. The property to the south is a waterfront lot on Shores Pond.
Is there just one copy of this?
I have another copy.
One for the board members? No, I mean,
Okay.
there's not a copy for everybody?
I have 2 copies.
There too.
That's it, too.
And share one, and one goes to Mike.
That is a undeveloped waterfront lot that's been in existence since 1984. We've done extensive research, and to Ms. Garvin's, as she alluded to, it is a town road. It's an undeveloped town road. Actually, there's a letter in the town files for Frank Downs in 1922 who laid out the town road. So I just think it just has never been developed because there
Town
hasn't.
road that's not in the town system for maintenance.
For maintenance, that is
Or
correct.
paving for that matter.
Right, that's correct, but it's still a town road. The previous property owner had developed that lot. As you can see, there was structures on it that had been demolished since then. The property owned by Ms. Eld and her sisters is undeveloped. It never had any access to it other than the undeveloped road driveway that existed there before. The previous owner had a grading problem, and this particular property actually had stormwater runoff that ran down into Geyer Road, the undeveloped Geyer Road. They had actually put a large catch basin, an 8-foot catch basin on their property with an overflow across the road, across the town road, into the, I don't know if you've ever seen it, the gully that's down there. Now, that gully takes water, stormwater from Millstone Road all the way to the north. It takes it from Scuttle Hole Road to the south, and it all flows to this low spot, and in fact, there's a huge concrete sluiceway that goes down into Shorts Pond. During rain events, it gets tremendous amounts of water that are running down in there. So the previous owner had put in the catch basin, which actually seemed to work at some point for many years, on their property, not in the town road, with an overflow, a pipe that went into the gully. That was not maintained, and in the recent past, it filled with silt and sand. And of course, when all this runoff came down, it blew out and went down and created, I believe there's some photos in here of a gully going down it, across the road, and started eroding Geyer Road and into the gully. So that brings us to our concern, really, is that, you know, I don't think this board should be considering granting a variance, whether it be good or bad, whether, until you see a grading plan that shows how these structures are going to be installed, how the grading is going to be handled, how the drainage is going to be handled, and whether or not the access to the properties are going to adhere to any town specifications. Does that road have to be improved to town standards? You know, many times the town is going to require to open as a country lane standard with drainage improvements. I don't know if that's true or not. Right now, it's not planned for, and we really don't have the information for it. We also don't have the information on the revised surveys, whatever that is. So we'd certainly like to see that. The other major concern, which I outlined in the letter I submitted, is the screening from Geyer Road. Now, Geyer Road, I know Bruce said that there is this gully between them, but, you know, it will be visible, all of these structures will be visible when the waterfront lot gets developed. So that's where our concern comes in. As you're driving down the now developed town road, what are you going to be able to see? Now, this property owner did plant some beautiful sycamores, very large mature sycamores that are great, they look terrific. But they're not going to provide any screening to the road edge as far as an evergreen screening or any buffer to that. So I would think that they would want to include that in their plan as some sort of landscape plan with a drainage plan so that we can all look at it and say, yeah, you know, this looks like a good plan, or maybe there should be tweaked. But the drainage is really the huge issue here. Geyer Road is going to provide access to the waterfront lot. So we're very much concerned about how that is handled and how the town is going to look at that as far as its improvement and the drainage. And again, so much water comes down from Geyer Road and from Millstone Road and from this property.
Yeah. And you understand that, you know, when it comes to drainage and when it comes to runoff, property owners are supposed to have their properties contained in terms of runoff.
Correct.
That's what the
and that's and I think that's a legitimate concern on our part here, because we have no information on how that's going to be handled with any of the development on that lot. So I don't see how the board can approve it without having that information in front of it.
Well, sometimes those kinds of issues arise after, you know, we make a determination on an application. And sometimes, if there are runoff issues, it ends up in neighbor context code enforcement, and there ends up being involvement of the town in dealing with issues. But usually they're trying to do it at the outset. Usually, when you have a building permit coming in, they're going to want to address those issues downstairs.
But in this case, Mr. Grossman, there already is a problem.
Where have we referred this to? Has it been
This has
referred
been
to Marty?
referred to conservation. Yeah, it's
That's
been
it?
referred to
How about the
conservation.
town engineer? Maybe he should go up there and take a look at the place.
No,
area.
I think that you can't, if we have
And
the
the highway
Supreme Court, any
superintendent.
development, you know, I mean,
Hold on.
we know it's a
Get
town.
them all up there.
Hold on.
We know it's a town road, you know, the town has to take some responsibility on how that access is developed. Now, whether in front of this board or you get advisory from the town engineer.
But we're even getting mixed information as to being a town road, which either is or it isn't.
Well, it's on all the surveys, it's on the plot from the original subdivision, which I also submitted to you.
Well, Mr. Gregory will surely tell us if it's a town road.
No, we're not, we don't,
May I say something?
we don't refer
Yes,
this
ma'am.
out.
I met with Bill Masterson when this came up about the road before, when Jay Bialski was actually developing it. He was the
Yep,
person that
and Bill
built.
would have some familiarities.
Okay, and so Bill met with me, we went over the map, and he said, yes, this is in fact a town road. And he had, said, it's a possibility you can make an application to abandon it, but it is an unopened town road. And at the time, because of the runoff from Geyer Road, the way the road slopes, it kind of pushes water that way. But when the development happened and they put in their original, catch basin, I guess for a little time period, I guess it worked. But over time, I guess as Chuck said, it started to fail. And when the new owner came in, and I called him because the collapse, I mean, to me, it was a safety issue. When you go up there and you see it, it's like the gully has collapsed. And to me, it was dangerous. And he was very responsive. He had his, workmen come out and put up a safety fence and bales and create a protective barrier. But my concern was, and that's why I asked Chuck to come out and look at it, was there was such severe runoff from the property. And when he mentioned he was going to do the tennis court, I said, well, usually when you do applications like this, there's usually some drainage plan, included. And it didn't seem like there was any of that yet.
Well, I can recall an application, I don't remember the name of the application, a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, where we had someone showing video of basically rivers of water.
That was my application.
And I recall at that time, we may have asked the applicant to look into it further. And I think if we get that kind of information in a public hearing, that's what we should do.
Well, let me just say that I'm not disagreeing with anything I hear today. Now, when we do a variance application, we usually don't get into this level of detail, okay, because we're concerned about setbacks and so forth. I will say, and these nice folks will confirm that we are all at the site. We're all sort of on the same wavelength, working together. I have no issue with, if you want to adjourn this for a period of time to jointly create some sort of a grading plan. I'm okay with that because, quite honestly, at the end of the day, a properly stabilized, what's going to be essentially a common driveway, because you're serving 2 lots here, okay, and there's a spec for it. It's a very clear and easy spec. And what we have in terms of width and so forth is within a foot or 2 of that spec today. So I'm not opposed to doing any of that, okay? So this isn't about, I'm here putting in a variance case, which I think I've done, and I hope the board understands why things are proposed where they are. I'm not opposed to screening, because I think that's something we would do anyway. So what I would suggest is maybe we can adjourn it. Maybe we can come up with some plans that are agreeable. And then at that point, we can kind of wrap this up. I think that would be the way to proceed.
Well,
We'll talk about wrapping it up and laying on down the road there.
Yeah, what I had suggested that we had talked to the owners about is that you really need a landscape plan, which is going to show the screening. You need a drainage plan. I think they hired a landscape architect to look at the drainage issues. And my other request certainly would be that the requirements of the town to provide access over a town road and that drainage be adhered to. And that's something that I think the town engineer should take a look at and see what's proper and what's not. That's all we're asking, it should be proper.
Okay. So I think we're gonna keep the public hearing open and have all these issues worked on. While they're being worked on, I would strongly encourage a dialogue between all.
There has been a great dialogue. He actually, the owner did do some work, corrective work, which we asked him to do, pulled out the old catch basin, put in a new one.
Yeah,
It's
I was
not
down
finished,
there
it's
today.
not finished yet. But, there's a problem. So we want to make sure that once this all built, that it's not a problem for the held properties.
Right.
But Bruce, have you been directed to go to road review, or is this going, I mean, that's how we would know whether or not the town was looking at this as a private road.
I don't,
But you've applied for a
I
building
have to
permit,
tell
right?
you, there is a disagreement there, and I will point out that when this property was initially developed, apparently these sorts of road reviews, drainage, surfacing issues was nothing that was enforced by the town.
Actually, you're right. If it's already been developed, it's not going to road review whether or not it's private or not.
That's correct. So it's really something that we're going to have to work out among ourselves.
And drainage problems, kind
But it's-
of get in line now.
Did you see the
town.
gully? Did you see the
But
collapse
what-
on the side?
Yeah.
It's,
And that's-
Well, what's important to understand is it's
yeah,
everyone's
yeah,
interested
really,
in
the,
this.
the big collapse, yeah.
Fine.
Can't have two conversations at
Okay.
once. Yep.
It's in everyone's interest, so I'm not
But
objecting to
I would
anything.
think that you would be particularly interested in that this road was maintained because that's access to your property, Ms. Owen.
It is important for me, but as I said, it should also be important to Bruce's client because it's also going to be, he's got to pass that same gully collapse
Yeah.
to get to his property. And to me, I said to him, it's a safety issue to me that somebody at night makes a wrong turn, they're dropping
Up in
down.
the gully.
They're going to go down the gully.
It's a
and
20-foot drop.
It's
Yeah, I
huge.
know.
It's
Yeah.
huge.
Yep.
And the other thing I just wanted to say was when, didn't see the letter, but when you said it was 200 Geyer Road, I mean, I've been dealing with the applicant, Derek. My understanding is, as he told me, he owns both properties. He may have partners, so when he says he has a letter of support from 200 Geyer Road, it's kind of, he's supporting his own project.
see.
So
Okay.
I just think everything should be very transparent.
Okay. So.
that, Bruce?
I don't know what the structure is, because it's an LLC.
Okay. So the other thing, we had asked just about the two proposed driveways, just to make sure that you don't need any relief for having two proposed driveways. And I will just speak for myself in that, I have a question in my mind about these proposed garage, being that you already have a garage. But I'm not sure whether other board members are on this. The other thing is the proposed garage where it's located could be moved further away from both property lines so that the relief is reduced. But anyway, we can revisit that, I think, when you come back. And that's only speaking for myself. I don't know whether my colleagues are.
I just want to make one tiny last comment, because I don't know if people are familiar with the property, but when you drive along Scuttle Hole Road, and then, Geyer Road kind of parallels it. So when Bruce said you can't the only person that really sees it would be the pond front lot, it's really not true. When you go on Geyer Road, past these two sites, and you look towards Scuttle Hole Road, you see right to Scuttle Hole Road. I mean, it's pretty open. The trees are basically bare this time of year. So it's actually visible. It's not invisible. Whether that's important or not to anybody, but it is.
Okay, so I think what we'll do is see what can be done to address several issues that we discussed tonight.
Yeah, and I think it's a tremendous amount of relief. And I know that, the owner of the property to the north is at least in part the same owner to the property of the south, but I don't know if it's our job just to, have less of a problem with something because an owner who's there doesn't object to it, or if our job is to, protect properties and the way they're developed in perpetuity, so.
I mean, I think there is an argument to be made that, we look at the five-part test, the fact that an adjacent neighbor is either in support of or happens to be the owner of the same, they own the same properties, is something we can consider. But at the end of the day, it's the 5-part test, and this is a big lot. And so there is room to maneuver things here, so that the relief isn't as great.
I'd like to see things moved around. So
Well, we voiced our concerns and hope the board, I think, is going to ask for more information.
Yep.
And then we can all look at it and hopefully come to some agreement.
Absolutely, okay.
Thanks.
So last question is, when would you like to come back?
Next year, 2020?
I'd also ask that Bruce, any submissions like tonight,
Yeah.
we haven't gotten them, but Bruce, I know, will send it to me.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, so we're booked for March, pretty much, unless...
No, I don't
Yeah,
think, I
yeah.
think we're talking here.
No, no, so...
418?
4/4, 4/18, or further down.
And plus, we need to get the Conservation Board to weigh in on this. I don't know if they're going to have a hearing, and if you would like to attend that, maybe.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I know this area so well that it's going to be out of their jurisdiction.
Okay.
Bruce is not.
Okay, all right, so,
No.
would you like to come back?
Yeah, no, it's not creation, we're not refunding.
I would think
They're not gonna
the
leave.
Town engineer.
second, the 14th of April is probably good.
18th of April.
When is Easter? Does anyone know? What?
And we need to otherwise, the town engineer is not gonna review.
In that area.
When the bunny
Take a look at the site up there in Guya Road and give us an opinion.
On what, their legal
What do you think?
access?
No, not
Okay.
legal
So,
access.
that'll work?
The condition of the road and
All
all
right.
this.
Is there anyone else
more
from the public who'd like to hear this
material,
next
create more
application of Siltjam LLC? Okay, if not, Mike.
Okay, so we'll
Thank you.
keep this open for all purposes, and we'll see you on the 21st.
18th, April 18th.
Something like that.
Come back with
April, we'll see you April 18th.
Very good.
All right.
Very good. Thank you. All right, do we have a second on the motion?
418, Michael?
418.
418, you sure? Okay. excellent.
418.
All right, Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa had recused himself, so he abstains, and Chair votes aye. Thank you so much.
Listen,
we
just
have a-
just for the
may we have a
record.
short break?
Yeah, we take a short break.
Short break.
But just for the record,
Yep.
I really, myself, I'm only one member of this board,
Yep.
and I would prefer if we get some people up there within the township, you know, like the highway superintendent,
Right.
town engineer, and take a look at, up there, whether
not
you all
real-
agree with me or not, I don't care. I would like to see an opinion. And we're looking to put sports courts up there, it's gonna be more, as I said, probably,
Well, let's see.
probably impervious material,
Okay,
and
but
it's
let's-
only gonna create more of a
I
mess.
understand, so let's see what we get when we come back, and whether we're satisfied with it. Yep.
I agree.
Right.
I like that idea.
Okay, we're taking a short break. We are back on.
How do you do?
Hey. Item 12 on the agenda, the holdover application from our 2/7 meeting lastly, and it's 2287 Montauk Highway LLC, Bridgehampton.
That's it.
The applicant, David Gilmartin Jr., Farrell Fritz. As you know, this application, we're requesting amendment to a prior secret determination and a prior ZBA decision that required us to find off-street parking and make a deal with Newman Village, which is a property across the street from the subject property, and to share 6 spaces. We negotiated with Newman Village in good faith, and they have told us that they don't have the ability to get all the owners on board. I've provided you with a letter from Burt Whistle and Gibson, who is the lawyer for Newman Village, and they also have a unit within there. And I think it's important to read, because we're asking you to do something that I don't know if any of you have seen done, but removing a condition to a secret determination. But this is from Craig Gibson, who's the lawyer for Newman Village. As presented to you by the above referenced applicant's attorney, Elizabeth E. Vale, and referenced in our email correspondence submitted to the board October 3rd, 2018, 2287 Montauk Highway LLC in Newman Village did enter into negotiation in good faith to accomplish the prior ZBA condition to establish shared parking on the Newman Village's lot. Newman Village is owned by separate condominium owners, and during our negotiations, it was discovered that all 10 owners would be required by the town of Southampton to obtain title certifications, possible mortgage consents in order to execute a shared parking easement. As a result, the shared parking agreement became an impossibility, and I advised Ms. Vale that I could no longer move forward with completing our agreement. However, please understand that the agreement was negotiated in good faith, and the dissolution of that negotiation was no fault of 2287 Montauk Highway LLC. Indeed, this was not a bait and switch, and their efforts to pursue a shared parking agreement with Newman Village was genuine. Please do not hesitate to contact me with any questions regarding this matter. So I know coming back and asking you to remove something that was offered is unusual and does look like a bait and switch, but we did negotiate that in good faith. After that negotiation fell apart, we looked to the Methodist Church, which is 2 properties down on the corner, and asked if we could use their parking lot for the 6 spaces. They're actually leasing that property, and they don't have the ability to do that deal. We also looked at purchasing a property immediately to our east, and we were outbid for that. Although we did make significant investment in time and money getting InterScience to plan out a site plan to see how we could perform that, but as it turns out, somebody offered more money for that property. So we've been thinking about ways that we can sort of, try and make this part of that right. So one of the things that we did is we did add 1 additional off-street parking space to the site. We removed the tree and we're able to at least get 1 of the spots in, so we're down to 5. As part of what we've come to offer today is we can offer you a covenant. There's a 2nd floor on the property that's about 715 square feet in size, and what we do is propose to limit that to the president and the senior vice president and their secretaries. So they're the only 4 people that could be in that area. I think this is a significant offer because those 4 people are people that are already employed on site and report to that building and use that building. So we're not adding additional people when we do that. Their current spaces will be used as a conference room, and we're willing to put that in any covenant in a form that you require. Second offer we can make, and I'd like to explain the spirit behind the offer, because I don't want the offer to be misconstrued by anybody who's interested or looking at this. Obviously, this is the Saunders Real Estate Building. Mr. Saunders is a resident of Bridgehampton. He's a businessman who employs approximately 200 people in the Hamptons. He's committed to the Hamptons, he's committed to Bridgehampton, and he's a resident. I think if you look around, we can all agree that you see a lot of Saunders sponsorships in all the different communities and in a lot of things going on. So he's a community-minded guy. In that vein, there's a requirement under the code that if you get a parking waiver, you have to pay into the parking fund. That fund was established at $2,500 a space in 1988. So we took a look at that and we said, you know what, we can bump that up. And we proposed to bump it up to $10,000 a space and hope that that would be used to improve the circulation and parking in and around the Bridgehampton area by the town. And that has occurred, most notably next or between the Thayer and the what's the deli? The Thayer Hardware and the Golden Pear Deli. The town has put in some restrooms and I think a couple of parking spots like there. So these contributions do get used and they do end up in improving the area. So we would be willing to do that to
For a
try
total of how much?
5 spaces, so it'll be $50,000. And again, I want you to understand the spirit. I don't want anybody to come up or anybody to criticize you saying we're trying to buy the variance, right? I think if we look at Mr. Saunders' history, he has been a benefactor of many different things in town.
And if parking spaces were worth $2,500 in
88. Right. I think it's fair, but again, I don't want an appearance of anything improper. It's, the spirit of trying to help the community and specifically that area, because that's when you make these contributions, they have to be used in the area. So tonight.
We'll still have that parking fund in Bridgehampton, Katie?
I'm sure we do, because the town, like David said, the town code, does require payment into the.
Is that what,
to the fund?
Pierre's and Almonds paid into?
I believe so, yes.
Those-
And that's the thing, the prior variance did give relief. I mean, I think the section David's talking about is 330-101D or F or something like that. F, I think. And the board, when the board granted the prior variances in lieu of the payment, it was sort of like the Newman Village Parking.
Village Parking.
I mean, it was that, that's the comparison that could be made.
So tonight, we're asking you to rescind the condition in neg deck and adopt a negative declaration. I know that has to be advertised in the environmental, DEC environmental bulletin, and then we would look for a positive decision from the board. I guess that has to be 30 days, whatever the timing is. But that's the initial resolution that you have to do is rescind the condition negative declaration. That's what we would request.
Any questions from members of the board?
I think the covenant is pretty significant in that it would limit be a legal requirement, of record, remember the land, to limit it to the 4 people.
You're going to
So
join
obviously
that
the concern is-
the first offer with the second offer there?
Yes, we would put that in the covenant.
And plus the 50 grand.
Yes, indeed.
But,
I'm so deeply disappointed that a real estate broker got outbid for a piece of property.
Well, if you knew who outbid him, you'd probably understand.
I think there's.
yeah, I wanted to clarify something. So it appears that, if I understand it, that they will be relocating from a space in the main building to the second story? Those 2 people with their secretaries, so those
Yes.
4 people?
Correct.
And then that space that they're vacating in the main building would be used as a conference room?
Conference area,
to-
not new offices to
Not
increase
to
that.
make additional space for additional agents? Is
That's
that
correct.
right?
And we will covenant to that also.
So it should not increase the number of inhabitants of the building?
Well, I think that the intention is is to counteract the fact that you're short 5 spaces.
Right, it makes up for those 5 spaces. There is going to be, the first floor, it will have offices and agents in that office. So some of the square footage, it's not a huge expansion. Some of the square footage is a secretarial area and then the stairs going up to the second floor. So it's not a huge expansion, but we believe that understanding the flow on the property, that it will satisfy those, between the space that we've given and then.
And between the money going into the parking fund, which I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen with it, but I'm hoping it'll help the situation in Bridgehampton all around, and the fact that there is a value to a space in on Montauk Highway in this area in Bridgehampton that's being relinquished as part of what's being proposed as of tonight. Are things for us to consider, and this is a very unusual set of circumstances.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I've never asked this board in 20-something years for this type of request.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Is there anyone from the public who'd like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of 2287 Montauk Highway LLC? This is 2287 Montauk Highway in Bridgehampton. Sir, you want to come on up? And I know you previously were sworn in, so if you can just state your name for the record.
My name is Gerard Wiedershoven, and I live at 43 Church Lane in Bridgehampton.
Okay. I don't have to swear you in again because you were sworn in before.
I still will tell the truth.
Okay. So you heard the discussion?
Yes.
What just
Yes.
transpired? Okay.
Thank you for giving this information. I mean, I never thought that the fact that you were given the chance to make this deal with Newman Village, that you wouldn't take this serious. Of course you would, because there was a great chance. And when this was decided at that meeting, I was not aware of it.
And you have to,
I'm sorry.
speak to us. Yeah.
When I was at the meeting where that was decided, I wasn't aware of that, so I wasn't here to make any comments about the size of the building, the location. So it all came down to the parking, and I'm very familiar with the parking at the church, and that also didn't work out for you, but I still feel it's very important that you get the additional parking, because the existing situation is really a bad situation. I've shown videos to the board, I've shown pictures to the board, how that lot is always overloaded along the highway. The cars park on Church Lane, and I appreciate that you're trying to make this work by putting just the office upstairs for Mr. Saunders and the associate and two of his secretaries. But the downstairs part is also going to be much larger than the existing building. There's an expansion of, I believe, 1,840 feet, 750 feet will be upstairs, but the ground floor of the existing building is smaller than the new one. So there will be more people in that little back part than before. So it's not totally that by keeping Mr. Saunders and his associate upstairs, there won't be additional parking.
But aren't there issues with people with parking in Bridgehampton, particularly in the summer season, in many businesses on Montauk Highway?
Of course, yeah. No, I mean, Montauk Highway between Watermill and basically East Hampton, it's a very narrow road, and it's always crowded. In the winter, of course, it's the trade parade, and in the summer it gets worse. But
So I'm really sympathetic to the fact that there are these systemic problems, in particular in Bridgehampton,
Yes, there are.
about the
There
parking.
are.
And so I think, you know, I for one have.
This could help.
We're trying to come up with solutions here.
for it.
No, I've looked into how this works with the parking fund, to where this money goes. I had a meeting upstairs to find out how this money is being used, and the only item in the budget is that the Parks Department takes some of that money to take care of the landscaping in the parking lot behind Candy Kitchen. And they also, I think there's a yearly maintenance of $40,000 for the bathroom behind Thayer's. And that is a good thing, but on the other hand, there were homeless people living in there last winter. So it has both good and bad. But the money that goes to the parking fund is just sitting there. Nothing is happening with it. It's not like they're building additional parking.
Yeah.
But my problem with the Saunders situation is that it's already overloaded, and by adding more, even 2 or 3 extra space, it just, you know, it's so obvious that Saunders, as successful as they are, have really outgrown this property. The lot next door, which has been for sale for 3 years, the sign for sale is still there, so if all of a sudden it got sold, well, then Saunders was outbid by another real estate broker, and sorry for you, but that's just the reality. The lot where they are, it's too small for them, and by trying to squeeze more space into it and really like coming closer to Church Lane, occupying more of the floor area, creates more problems. Because another problem with the parking there is that they back out, or they go out to Montauk Highway 27 and to Church Lane to the back. So when there's a snowstorm, all the snow on the lot gets accumulated, gets pushed into Church Lane, usually up against my hedge. And I've been trying to explain to Saunders that I don't like that, and they should keep it either on their side or get it on trucks and move it away like people do. But, you know, it happens at 4 or 5 in the morning, the Spanish crews that do it, they laugh at you, and you know, I'm a little guy, and they have big machines, so they just do what they need to do. And even the last little snowstorm, there's a little pile of snow on my side of the road that's left after everything else melted. And by adding 2 or 3 more parking spots, there's going to be 2 or 3 more loads of snow coming across the street, which is also not really very pleasant.
Okay, so you want us to deny the variance?
I still do, and I
Okay.
still, I gave you everybody else on the block that signed the petition, that they were against it from the beginning, that sent the emails, and by not getting additional parking, I don't think there's anything better for us to accept.
Have you ever met with Mr. Saunders as a group formally?
As a group, no. As a neighbor, I went to the office to complain about the snow, and I don't know if I met Mr. Saunders. I met somebody who turned his back to me and said, "Get out."
Yeah. I mean, there's a significant list of neighbors that have signed this petition
Everybody on board.
against this.
Everybody.
That's one of the things I went over to the site, I saw the pictures in the video,
Mhm.
and, you know, parking is permitted on Church Lane. So, you know, we can't prohibit parking on Church Lane. I know some of the neighbors, they're concerned because the parking on Church Lane and attributing that to the business, which I totally
Yeah,
understand.
just a
My
little
office is
bit.
in Bridgehampton. I have the same problem.
Right.
People parking,
No,
it's
difficult
difficult to find space.
everywhere. Yeah.
But that solution, I think, is beyond this board, and I think that might be, all the people that signed the petition that Michael was talking about, you should see the supervisor about getting no
Right.
parking on Church Lane. Because if there's no parking on Church Lane, and if someone parks there, then it's an enforcement issue, again, beyond this board. But we couldn't limit someone's parking on
No,
Church
I
Lane.
totally get that, but the overflow from Saunders is usually 1 or 2 cars, because there's only about like 40 feet.
No, but I'm saying I
next
think
to the
that would,
driveway, where
you
they
know,
can only put 2 cars.
would be
before they
helpful.
Start going to other people's property.
I just think some of the things, I think they're very important points that you and the neighbors bring up. I think some of those are enforcement, though, that is beyond what we can do.
Mhm.
I mean,
No,
we're
I
talking
get
variances,
that. I
no
get
question
that.
about it. You know, the parking fund, maybe, you know, they're getting cross-access between the buildings on Main Street as they're developed.
Right.
You know, we did that behind our office, like, you're connecting between the offices.
Right.
There's no opportunity there because you're at a residence behind where we're
Right.
talking here.
No, but
just
when
so-
you look at the situation, and very often, all 18 spots that they have are occupied, including the one handicap parking spot, which is always occupied by a car that doesn't have the sign, because they need every space they have, and then they double park on their own lot. They double, you know, and they have cars on the highway, as many as they can squeeze, but on the lot itself, where there are, I forget now, I think it's 18 existing. Those spots are usually occupied, and then there's 5 or 6 other cars parked along the throughway of the lot itself.
Yeah, and I mean, and to me, that this is a larger issue in the hamlet of Bridgehampton. I'm not minimizing anything that is
Right.
being said tonight, but, you know, the town board has the ability to do certain things. I don't know that they can fix this problem, but they need, Brian's suggestion is a good one, to make them aware, just how bad it is. And then something needs to be done.
No, Miss Pamela Harwood has asked me to chair a subcommittee of the CAC to look into the park and to see what we can do. And for instance, I found out that there's a field bought by the town of Southampton along Corwith, behind the Corwith House, where they had planned additional parking, but 15 years ago when this plan came up, local population voted against that. They wanted to keep the
But
the
if
rural
there's more
vistas.
funds in the parking fund, that may become a reality to alleviate parking. I don't know, but that's something maybe you could look into.
I mean, you know, I'm even thinking far out, like, should we put like a story underneath the parking lot behind, like, you know, an underground garage behind the
I don't know if they
parking
have
lot?
that kind of money.
Right.
But
Some
you know,
paving and some gravel.
But if people in the community, in Hamlet, they want to work on this problem, then I think the direction it should be going towards is to see what the town board can do.
No,
And there's an
definitely,
active
but for this
transportation-
particular space where Saunders is located, it just is very small lot, and they've totally outgrown it, and they're only doing better and better. You know, they built a big building right in front of East Hampton a few years ago, which I had hoped would relieve some of the brokerages,
But this kind of issue, parking issue and not having enough parking spaces, we've seen on a few occasions in the last several years. And it's the same scenario where there just isn't enough room to have enough parking spaces for what's there. So the alternative to dealing with the system they have with the parking fund is to deny variances and just, you know, and just to say, well, tough luck. We're not going to grant any relief.
I think unfortunately Saunders has outgrown where they are. I mean, it's just that simple. It was originally developed as a small, high retail quality furniture store that had a little storage room in the back, and occasionally there were 2 or 3 cars in the lot. But once it became the office building, Saunders started out nice with a few brokers, and by now it's really in full swing. And
All right. Well, I appreciate all your efforts
you.
and all your comments on all of this.
Yeah, because we're on the block, going to be mostly affected by what's going to happen.
And I don't work in Bridgehampton, but I grew up in Sag Harbor, so when I remember when Bridgehampton didn't have any of these problems, Bridgehampton was a very quiet place a
Well,
long
there
time
were, there
ago.
were a gas station on every corner apparently for some time.
Pretty much, yeah.
Anyway, thank you for your time, and please consider our feelings on the block.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Sir. Thank you.
Okay. Just, of course, the people on Church Lane don't want any parking there, but as of today, it is legal off-street parking, as is Montauk Highway. If that somehow changes in the future, people will have to change their behavior. But today, as we're before you today, it is legal to park on Church Lane. I understand a dilemma of people not wanting parking on the street, but when it's permitted, it's permitted. And let's consider, the area where we are. We're a block off of Montauk Highway, right? So if you wanted no parking on your street, there are certainly neighborhoods as you get further south or north of that area that prohibit parking on the street like that and don't have any commercial businesses around them. There's this obvious tension between residential and commercial properties. But again, until Church Lane is, it's not prohibited to park there, people are legally entitled to park there. And Saunders as a company can ask people not to, but they can't direct them not to, right? And that's the challenge that you're facing. With respect to the parking fund, when money goes in, it's a dedicated parking fund, so it will be dedicated to the Bridgehampton area. That's how it works. Your council has referred to it, but remember, it's dedicated to parking. And in our looking at this problem, which we tried to do globally and look around for opportunities, there is town property further to the east where there may be an opportunity for that to happen. And I would hope that the CAC from Bridgehampton would be involved in doing that with the town board and trying to get some dedicated parking space down there for all of Bridgehampton. With respect to the snow removal, I will talk to Mr. Saunders tomorrow, and we'll have that stopped. That's not fair, and it's not right, and we will make sure that all snow is retained on site or brought off site, but certainly not dumped on any neighbor's property. But that's it.
And what was the proposal for the covenant? I'm just trying to figure out how that would, the covenant on
So the covenant would be to restrict the second floor
The
to,
president, VP, and 2 secretaries.
let's say, to 4 people.
Okay.
But that's, the presentation was that the president, with this company, I just don't want to bind them in the future that,
Four people.
4 people, yeah. that-
I'm just
I think-
quoting, that's all.
And you did it correctly.
And 50 grand.
And the 50
And
grand.
a contribution.
Parking fund, that's.
To the dedicated parking
Why
spot.
don't you make it 100?
What?
Why don't you make it 100?
I do not have the authority.
How much authority you got?
I gave it to you. I didn't come in short, Keith. Not with you here.
Okay.
Would Mr. Saunders have any objection to meeting with the neighbors and talking to them about this?
I can't answer that, but I will try and be a conduit to make that happen. If I get contact information, I'll try and be the conduit to make that happen.
I mean, they've been consistent, they've been adamant about this from day one, and they've even shown up on meetings when it's been continued, and we haven't had this opportunity to speak with you or Ms. Vale. And there's a significant group of people.
I'm certainly happy to try and make it happen.
I'd recommend
I can guarantee the effort, not the outcome.
Okay. We want neighbors to get along. We don't want to see these kinds of things happen. Yeah. So we
Agreed.
appreciate any effort you could, yeah, anything you could do in terms of encouraging a dialogue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you should, can you pass that to Brian? You should make sure there's votes
Yeah.
before you start that.
So a motion, Katie, or read this first?
Um,
Motion.
No, I think you could just read it, because there would be a vote at the end.
This would be my motion, reading that.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm going to read this, and then the board's going to vote, so this is for discussion. Whereas this board, as lead agency on April 5th of 2018, adopted a conditional negative declaration in connection with the application of 2287 Montauk Highway LLC, finding the project will not result in significant adverse environmental impact so long as the following conditions are met. The applicant shall enter into a shared parking agreement with the Newman Village Complex for the 6 additional parking spaces required on site. 2. The 6 parking spaces located at the Newman Village Complex shall be used as employee parking for the premises and shall be designated as such with the appropriate signage. And whereas decision D018046, dated May 3rd of 2018, granted variances for the project, including relief from Town Code Section 330-100D and Town Code Section 330-95 for a parking waiver for 6 spaces, and incorporated the aforementioned secret conditions into its grant of relief. Whereas the applicant subsequently informed the board that the conditions could not be met as the Newman Village Complex would not enter into a shared parking agreement for the 6 parking spaces with the applicant, and as a result requested that the decision and secret determination be modified to remove the condition as it related to the parking spaces. Whereas a public hearing was advertised, the adjacent property owners notified, and the premises posted to take testimony in connection with the proposal, wherein the applicant maintained that a tree can be removed to accommodate 1 new parking space. There are no alternative shared parking in the neighborhood. Attempts were made to secure the parking at Newman Village, the Bridgehampton Methodist Church, and to purchase the property directly to the east were all unsuccessful. Town Code Section 330-101F allows a property owner to pay $2,000 for every space waived under Town Code Section 330-101D, or, I can't read Katie's writing, I'm sorry.
I think I wrote the applicant, however the applicant offered.
However, the applicant offered to pay a fee of $50,000 to the community of the town's parking fund, basically the community parking fund for the town of Bridgehampton. The proposed second floor of the building will host an executive suite for the president and the company, and his existing offices in the front building will be converted into a conference room, and a covenant will be filed against the property indicating the same.
No more than 4 people upstairs. And
That's correct.
And downstairs cannot be turned into an office for a broker.
Correct.
That's what Mr. Gilmore said.
That's correct.
Former offices.
The former offices. The board routinely grants variances for parking, particularly in Bridgehampton. Whereas after discussions with the applicant and considering the new information in the record, including impacts on land, groundwater, critical environmental areas, consistency with the community plans, and consistency with the community character as a potential environmental issues, this board finds that the change in circumstances and removal of the condition would not result in any significant environmental impact. Therefore, be it resolved that based on the change of circumstances as aforementioned, this board would hereby rescind the conditional negative declaration previously adopted on April 5th of 2018 in connection with the application of 2287 Montauk Highway LLC, and it would be further resolved that the board would adopt a negative declaration in conjunction with the revised application of 2287 Montauk Highway LLC, as I've previously stated in this. So that would be my motion.
Second. Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Nay.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Okay, so now, so that wasn't sufficient to have that, the rescission of the prior conditional negative declaration. Now the board has to publish the, well, we'll publish this in the ENB. I think it has to be published for 30 days. And then the board has, I think we should, because if there's comments, then they have to consider the comments before they render a decision. Okay, so I think we should adjourn this until April 4th, and then if there were no comments that were made on the ENB, you can render a decision that day. And if there are
I might
comments,
not
then
be
we'll...
here on the 4th, but I'll.
Okay, and then if there are comments, the board can discuss them that day. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
So this will be adjourned till April 4th.
April 4th, it'll be back on.
Yep. Okay.
Is that for all purposes?
Yes, for all purposes, and then if there was, you know...
So it's open for all purposes, carried over to April 4th.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Tuthill?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
See if you can arrange that meeting, eh, Dave?
Decision time?
Decision time. Who's got them?
I have a decision in the matter of the application of Victoria A. CO. I will read the relief at the end. The subject premises is located at 7 Locust Street in the hamlet of Hampton Bays. It is identified by Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-258-3-36 and is approximately 20,000 square feet. This is in the R20 zoning district, type 2 under SECRA. At the public hearing, agent for the applicant, Kevin Springer, testified that the applicant seeks to construct an accessory apartment on the second floor of an existing detached garage and requires a variance for lot size and to permit the size of the proposed accessory apartment to be 55% of the total floor area of the principal dwelling, where a maximum of 35% is permitted. Mr. Springer explained that the principal dwelling contains 2 bedrooms and is a modest 793 square feet, while the accessory apartment is proposed to be a 1-bedroom at approximately 438 square feet. Also during the public hearing, Mr. Springer testified the shed that is attached to the 1-story dwelling will be removed or relocated to a conforming location. By letter dated February 19, 2019, Mr. Springer submitted a revised survey and explained that the shed in question was actually part of the carport constructed for storage purposes only, and that 3 walls have been removed to restore it to its original state. There was no opposition to this application, passes a 5-part test. Therefore, this board grants the following relief from Town Code Section 330-11.2 for proposed accessory apartment, which will be constructed on the second floor of the existing detached garage. Section 330-11.2 to allow an accessory apartment to be located on a lot that is less than 30,000 square feet. Section 330-11.2G to allow the size of the proposed accessory apartment to be 55% of the total floor area of the principal dwelling, where a maximum of 35% is permitted. In section 330-11.2 subsection J to allow 2 access driveways where only 1 is permitted, all as shown on the survey prepared by AJC Land Serving PLLC dated November 14, 2018, last revised February 11, 2019, and the plans prepared by architect Sean F. Leonard dated November 21st, 2018. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Grossman recuses himself. Chair votes aye.
This is in the matter of the application of Dennis S. and Kathy F. Lazar. This was a minor variance request from earlier this evening's agenda. I will read there was no public hearing. I will read the relief that we're going to grant at the end of it. It does pass the 5-part test. So therefore, and for the reasons set forth herein, this board grants relief from Town Code 330-115D3 continuance for a proposed principal total side yard setback of 54.5 feet, where 60 feet is permitted for a proposed covered porch addition to the existing dwelling, as shown on the survey prepared by Paul Borowski, Land Surveying, dated August 30, 2018, last revised Feb. 14, 2019, and with the condition that the shed be removed or relocated to a conforming locations prior to the issuance of any certificate of occupancy / compliance for the porch. Grant of the foregoing relief is subject to show the conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired and may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of subject premises.
Second.
Mr. Tuttle?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn. Aye. Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Recuse myself on that application.
Chair votes aye.
Hold on one sec. Kevin, what else are you waiting for?
I have a decision in the matter of the application of Jeannie Merritt Irrevocable Trust, 30 School Street, Hampton Bays, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-265-3-11. Right. Subject, I'm going to read the relief granted at the
Oh, I thought I heard
end.
therefore.
I'm quick, but not that quick, Brian. The subject premise is located at 30 School Street, Hampton Bays, town of Southampton. The property is approximately 13,875 square feet, and it's in a R20 zoning district. The following testimony was submitted at the public hearing by Camille Fernari and her agent, Mr. Springer, in the back room, of Dynamic Legal Services, stating they seek the variances to legalize the construction of a garage and its conversion to an apartment without the benefit of a building permit. Mr. Springer testified the structure was erected sometime between 1976 and 1984 and was converted into an apartment by someone who is now deceased, and that the intention is to have Ms. Merritt live in the apartment and rent out the dwelling. Camille Fernari is the daughter, testified that the apartment has existed as long as she could remember, and that her ex-husband made minor improvements to the apartment. Mr. Springer testified that there would be no detriment to the neighborhood in legalizing the structure and its conversion. There was no opposition to the application. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code, pass the five-part test. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code 330-11 residential districts table of dimensional regulations for an accessory side yard setback of 3.8 feet where 10 feet is required, and relief from Town Code 330-84D pyramid height for an encroachment in the amount of 346 cubic feet to legalize an accessory building constructed without the benefit of a building permit. In addition, this board grants the following relief from Town Code 330-11.2, the accessory apartment special standards to legalize an accessory apartment constructed within the accessory building without the benefit of a building permit. One, to allow an accessory apartment to be located on a parcel that has lot area is less than 30,000 square feet. Two, for a lot area of 13,875 square feet, whereas 16,000 square feet is required 80% of required 20%. Three, for a lot width of 75 feet where 84 feet is required, 70% is required 120 feet. Four, for a principal minimum side yard setback of 10.5 feet where 14 is required, 70% is required 20. And five, for an accessory side yard setback of 3.8 feet where 7 feet is required, 70% is required 10. These variances are granted for structures shown in the survey prepared by Hands-On Surveying dated February 6, 2017, last revised October 12, 2018, and the architectural plans prepared by Jeffrey Sands, architect, dated October 11, 2018. Grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including but not limited to an accessory apartment application from the Southampton Town Building Department.
Second. Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
No.
Chair votes aye.
What else you want, Kevin?
In the
Bye-bye.
matter of the
Have a good night.
application of Caitlin Montroni, the subject property is in Eastport, New York. The subject property is a non-conforming lot containing approximately 21,835 square feet in the R40 zoning district, located at 45 South Bay Avenue, Eastport. Identified Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-365-1-5. The subject lot currently contains an existing single-family residence of 1,183 square feet and an existing garage of 654 square feet. The board finds this subject application to be a type 2 under SECRA and the applicant has passed a 5-part test, and we will approve the request for the proposed principal front yard setback of 21.9 feet, where 27.9 feet is existing, for a proposed covered porch, and 2, a principal minimum side yard setback of 27.6 feet, where 28.7 feet is existing, and a principal total side yard setback of 57.4 feet, where 74.2 feet is existing, for proposed one-story addition, for 2 proposed one-story additions to the existing dwelling on a non-conforming lot. The structure will have the dimensional requirements and location as shown in the survey of Nathan Taft Corwin III, dated November 27, 2018, which was submitted with the application and incorporated herein. Granted, the foregoing relief is subject to the conditions of such other permits as the applicant has heretofore acquired or may otherwise be necessary for final approval of the proposed additions at the subject property.
Second.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Do I have to read the whole thing? No, thank you. Okay. I have a decision in the matter of Lawrence Fliegelman. This is 13 Old Mill Lane in Remsburg and Spionk, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-368-4-71-15. It's approximately 40,000 square feet, R40 zoning district, type 2 under SECRA.
You could skip to
Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code Section 330-11 for an accessory rear yard setback of 16 feet where 20 feet is required to legalize an accessory building constructed without the benefit of a building permit, as shown on the survey prepared by Martin Hands of Hands-On Surveying, dated November 15, 2018. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Do we have a second? No second.
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 Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Motion to close.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.